Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Wednesday. Remembering the days here, Wednesday the 16th of December. So these days they all merge a little bit. So let's start off with what's on the books today. Well, in terms of news, we've got the key today, or this morning at least, is the PMI data through to the early afternoon, and then we've got, of course, the FOMC economic projections, the Fed statement, and any changes to the Fed funds rate, etc. Starting with the top down though, looking at we've got the French start off at 8:15, French services and manufacturing data. 8:30 we've got the German data. They're the two that were really, if we're going to see any moves in these markets this morning, that are most likely to give any kickers on the euro. 9 o'clock we've got the European data as a whole. Then at 9:30 we've got the UK data, and then at 2:45 the US data. Now again, all of those could create some volatility within these markets. They're the first signs of any sort of growth or continued lack of growth, as it may be in some places. As I said, we've got the FOMC or the Fed statement, etc. at 7 p.m. this evening. Little really expected at this stage on the Fed. Before that, and hopefully before that anyway, there was more discussions regarding the fiscal stimulus in the US, and that they believe that may be a done deal today. So we could see that we've seen this optimism through the markets, which has been really showing in the equity markets and not the US dollar, for example, which is just put the US dollar on here briefly. US dollar, there we go, has continued effectively to sell off. It's an inversion of the inverted market of the euro, really. But if you look at this right the way through into its weekly view, it's again this week selling off quite strongly after a little bounce towards the end of last week. But so we are seeing this sort of continuation. I would expect more of that, whatever happens here. Because it's more likely to be equity biased and favoured than the US dollar. Any surprises the other way, of course, could see the dollar gain quite a bit from it. So there you are. That's the news to watch out for, the economic news. There is a bit of economic risk, what it may be, prefer to be called, whatever you like to call it, but that's out there today. Okay. Okay, so let's start looking through these markets. Big picture first. Euro still in that divergence zone, but it is pushing back up. But often when you see a divergence, one or two things: either it really reacts to it quite quickly, which this hasn't really reacted too much at all. It's continued in the chop zone, or it chops along and eventually pushes out. And this looks like the latter. So if you see how it's had a bit of movement from the first high, then we've pushed into that second high, which gave us the divergence. Very little reaction to it yesterday and or this week, I should say. And well, it does look like there's potential. However, it's already hit daily pivot. It's hit its R1 here at this stage. It could push on through here, and we've got plenty of news coming out later. Don't forget, at 8:15, 8:30, 9 o'clock would all affect the euro this morning, so just be aware that we could see reactions to that. Okay, that's I mean, if you were really looking for on the sell side, maybe any sell side, I would look at a trend line across the lows there, but it's going to be quite an awkward one to try and get into this morning, unless it does retrace quite a bit on the news and then maybe picks up later. The pound just went yesterday when there was the rumours. I don't mention Brexit so far this morning. Well, there's the potential Brexit deal, and it's looking a little bit lighter at the end of the tunnel, maybe. We'll see how that runs today, but they were discussing that they got closer. There's some movement on both sides, and we'll see what happens from that. Now that could really give the pound even a bigger kicker. We saw it get the kicker yesterday. That could continue, and the pound's remained amazingly strong. A lot of people obviously thinking that there's some potential in this, and sure enough, it pulled back, didn't even half fill the gap. Actually, got into the gap territory, just bounced off near enough the weekly pivot there, and has taken the move from that. So we're sort of pushing up high lows, high highs, and looking like this further upside at this stage. Now, of course, a retracement would be necessary for me to do anything with this. And at 9:30 we've got news coming out which also could affect this and see it retrace or even push up further. Okay, dollar yen. Yen continued its path yesterday to the downside and is running through this morning through the Asian session, already moved down there. Really, it would have to be a case of retracements to sell into to get on this one as well. These markets have moved through the Asian session quite a bit. As you can see, since midnight or even before midnight, it started moving and have continued in that route. So looking at the moment that we're going to have to be a bit patient this morning. Aussie dollar, no difference here really. Again, been pushing up there yesterday, pushed up, caught the bid on the later part of the session there. A bit more consolidated, but still sitting up there. Same sort of picture, this sort of consolidated phase. It had a reaction to its divergence from those two highs. Not a massive reaction, didn't even get back to its weekly pivot. The Aussie has, for quite some time, they've been one of the stronger currencies, as the other commodity currencies have as well. Sitting through a bit of more of a mess here on the 60 minutes at the moment, a bit slower, but it has got the potential just to carry pushing through there. The very fact that it's a little bit slower at the moment is just really, we've seen the commodity currencies doing a bit better when the other markets are not doing quite so well. When the European currencies are picking up a little bit. It's now time for the Aussie maybe just to sit back a little bit, but still would imagine the drift would be to the upside there. Canadian dollar. Canadian dollar largely has been dropping down. Yesterday, US dollar, Canadian dollar, remember this US dollar yielded more, and so the Canadian dollar strengthened further there. It's just continuing in that mode. Well, we've seen a retrace this morning. Maybe we'll see a correction and a change back into staying into this trend here. So it has potential to continue to the downside there. Okay, that's the CAD. Other things then, as we look at S&Ps, of course, now this could move more. We've already seen the optimism coming through here with the potential fiscal stimulus in the US. We could see a continuation of this, consolidated where it is at the moment again. Just waiting, it almost looks like, for a bit of a hint of anything to come. The fiscal stimulus will help it. It depends on what the Fed do later. I would be surprised if the Fed do anything. There's a lot of people expecting the Fed to do basically nothing. We're sitting in between presidents at this stage, and also they're waiting to see what effect this fiscal stimulus has. It may be that they need to do something at a later stage, and if they've used up all their ammo at the moment, they won't have anything later. So we'll see, but I expect any move on these S&Ps would come from a deal on the fiscal stimulus. Okay, that's that. And gold, just going to look at it from an hourly point of view here. Okay, gold continued through yesterday, got another shot in the arm there, and is according to something I was reading this morning, this is one of the strongest periods of the year for it normally, through to about February. So we'll see if this actually does gain some traction. Coming back to the dailies, it's not too far away from its sort of mean, which it's been sitting here. So put it into perspective, it's been struggling to get much more beyond that upper level, apart from one little blip here which it soon gave back. So, but it may be the start of things. A break above this prior high here, about 1880, somewhere around there, 1870, 1880. Well, we may get a higher low from that. Okay, that's gold. And finally oil. Just look through the final market here, and well, oil did get another push up there yesterday after pulling and seeing a reasonable retrace earlier in the week there. It got a good shove yesterday, and quite solid looking move for here. And again, the sort of stimulus that's sort of talked about may just help it a little bit, but I think this is a little bit over optimistic on oil at this stage. But certainly the producers would be happy at sitting closer to $50 than the $40 or $30 it was sitting near earlier in the year. Okay, that's it for me. I will leave you here. Have a great day. Bye for now.